Hello, creative humans. Welcome to the F Alliance podcast, the show where we talk about creativity, minimalism, and how to be wildly functional in a distracted world. I'm your host, Andrew Fultz. I'm here with my friend, Kathy Palokoff, to talk today about magic. Woo! We're going to talk about what it feels like to get in a magical creative moment. I am wearing a cardboard wizard hat right now because I'm trying to do something a little bit more magical every week, a little bit more crazy, F with a few more lines. So today we're talking about magic. And Kathy, do you have one moment in your life where you had a magical creative moment and it kind of changed your life? You know, it shifted you into a new gear creatively. People noticed something about you, or you noticed something about yourself that you didn't know before.
I would love it to be that when I realized that I had the power to turn invisible or
Oh,
transport myself over space and time. And by the way, great hat. Great hat. Really like, I'm having serious hat envy on here. But this is a little corny, but I will have to say that probably the most magical moments of my life were giving birth to three children.
yeah.
There is something about holding life in your hand
Mm,
that is magical. I also I was there when my late husband passed away. And it was very, very sad, very traumatic, but there was also something magical about breath leaving
yeah.
and realizing. So, probably as a profound moment, it was probably the profound moment to me to realize that one minute we're alive, the next minute we're not.
It's like the
Okay.
the the
Um,
letting the letting go, the
it,
kind of the I
it
guess the
just you're alive and then you're not.
yeah.
I mean, when you actually see that, it's powerful. The birth is also in the same way, but that's more this overwhelming thing of, oh my God, my life has changed. Oh boy, that really hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
lots of other stuff in there. But those were the magical moments for me have always been
They always
very human
people
moments.
related.
Yeah, but there have been powerful magical moment. There is a real magic moment when, if you're a teacher, when you see somebody get it,
Yeah.
or when you have this great idea and your client lights up, or when you're working with a creative partner and you're just so like in tune with one another. Those are all
Yeah.
magic for me. But
Well, man, no, you're talking life and death and learning, and my example is like the opposite of that because it's actually from working at a running store and selling someone shoes, which is the most boring example in the world. And creative people normally hate sales, so this is such a strange example. But I was working in the running store I work part time in one day, and this woman and her son came in and he just had all kinds of problems, plantar fasciitis, like all of this stuff. He was a cross country runner and he was like, basically they're both like on the borderline of tears, because this problem had been going on for so long. He couldn't figure out what it was. He tried a billion shoes. And so I'm a barefoot runner. I'm kind of one of those weird toe shoe people. So I started talking to him about just simple stuff like your running stride, wearing more minimal footwear. And it was like, it's like what you're talking about with the learning moment. There was just this expanding of consciousness where someone had a really deep problem to solve, even though it seemed kind of like a silly small thing, like just running shoes. But we started talking about all these wild things like the Tarahumara runners who run mostly barefoot and just all this crazy stuff. So when life gets to open up like that, even in a really small situation, those are the types of moments that can change your life. And I wasn't a running coach at that moment, but and I still not now, but the mom asked me, she's like, do you do this for a living? She was like ready to hire me. And that's kind of a rare moment when you get clients who are so excited or people who are so excited to connect with you in a new way. So I think it can happen both in the expected ways of life and death and in the smallest moments. But let's unpack these two kinds of experiences. And like, what do you think are the ingredients for a really powerful magic creative moment?
Um, I I think that magic occurs when it touches your heart.
Yeah.
So I don't think magic is an intellectual concept. So when you try to unpack it in an intellectual way, even like how does that magic trick work?
Yeah.
You lose the magic, right? I mean, that's why magicians don't ever tell their secrets. You
Yeah.
lose the magic. So magic is about wonder, right? So for
We just
you,
talked about listening too. So maybe part of that is like being open to the wonder when it comes,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, like
not being obsessed with trying to find the wonder constantly. Because it's not very fruitful for me trying to find inspiration. I guess I don't know how you feel about it, but like I'm always just having to stumble on it, and make sure that I have enough sleep, to recognize it when it comes, because that's important too, to have enough energy to chase the whatever magical moment that you're going to be in. How do
do you,
you go about it? How do you go about finding magic?
actually a little curious on you though, because you do things that I think are magical. Uh,
Like what?
well, I think your cartoons are magical. Okay, it's like, how did he get there? Where
Yeah.
did he come from? And the more absurd they are, the more magical they are to me. So so I'm really interested in when you're in the middle of a creative moment, how do you know that that's magic happening?
I think it's obvious, it's something you feel. So knowing that you're in the creative moment is just like, it's just going, it's just flowing, there's no resistance. I guess if I had to boil it down to one feeling, it would be like everything is covered in dish soap. You ever had that feeling? Like you can feel your thoughts just kind of like going along. There's no resistance. A lot of times in life we feel that resistance from fear. We feel those blocks. So when you're in a magic moment, things just start to flow. And so maybe that's a good thing to watch for, because sometimes we miss the moment, because we're not paying attention. And so maybe it's like when you notice those really small things that start to flow, start to feel good, you're like, okay, how can I move in that direction?
So there's the expression that we often hear of aha moments, right?
Yeah.
So you have an aha moment. When you're talking about magical moments, what's interesting to me is that they're not necessarily moments of revelation. There's just something, it's not always big. It's often so small, like
Yeah.
this is how you move your feet when you run, but it's still big. So the examples I gave are big, birth, death, you
Yeah.
know, um, but a lot of it has to do what you've talked about in the past of being conscious and of keeping things simple. Like if you keep things simple and you're conscious, you're going to be aware of the magic of life, right? A
Yeah.
lot more.
Simple. Repeat. Say that line again.
If
S-
you're conscious and you're
Simple in your conscience. Is that what you
conscious,
said?
yeah, you're going to be aware of those
I
moments,
love that phrase.
you know?
Yeah. I think maybe one other thing to add is that we tend to become obsessed with the scale of magic, you know. And if you think about how a microscope works, you put your eye up to a microscope, and all of a sudden, there are all these magical things that are so tiny. And I think we close ourselves off to things in terms of scale, like magic has to happen in business, or has to happen in creativity, or it has to be 10,000 followers that we get. But that's just not the case. Magic is, I guess it's whatever moment you are able to put yourself fully into. It's why you see people who are in Africa who are living the most minimal life possible, where all they're doing is running and foraging for food. And to a modern person with our scale, we think, how could that possibly lead to happiness? But those tribal people are consistently rated as like the happiest people in the world. It's because they blow themselves up psychologically and emotionally into the moments that they're experiencing. Yeah.
I like that example. I also, I'm actually a fan of magicians, but my favorite magic is sleight of hand, where they just have cards, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the big magic shows don't do much for me, But it's like, wait a second, how did he move that to that? Is just so. I think the other element of magic for me is surprise. Um,
Yeah.
and so as much, I mean, I was pregnant for 9 months, I knew I was going to give birth, but there was this surprise of this being coming.
Yeah.
There was the surprise of the moment of death. Okay. I mean, even though intellectually it's not a surprise, there was a surprise. There is a surprise when you have an idea and the client, even though you've done these are your objectives and we've met your goals and you've done all that, when the client just goes, I love it, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Those are the moments we live for.
yeah. So
Yeah. Oh
surprise.
man.
Mm.
This conversation surprised me. There's lots of surprises. So, man, just to sum this up, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like we're in a moment of creative magic. I feel like the air is sparkling a bit. But I think it's important to listen, to be receptive, which we just talked about listening on Kathy's podcast. I think that's a great point, because you can miss magic, and then also I think it's important to focus on what scale are you thinking about. Are you attached to the scale of you have to have 10,000 followers, or people have to give you this amount of money or say such and such thing to you for you to be in a moment of magic? And it's just not true, and it'll hold you back from experiencing bigger and bigger moments of magic. And then, like Kathy says, surprise, letting go of this specific track that you have for an experience. When you're going into an experience, just open yourself up and just kind of let go and let things flow. So yeah, I'm feeling really good. I hope you guys are feeling really good. You can find this podcast and more conversations like this on falliance.com and falliance on Instagram and Twitter and anywhere you can find podcasts. Kathy, if people want to feel more magical, where can they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me at Kathy@gofirestarter.com, or go to my website, Go Firestarter, and I'm on all that social media stuff too. But I actually love the magic of directly hearing and connecting with people again.
Yeah.
That. So, anyways, wow, what a great word. Thank you,
Woo!
Ann.
Yeah, it's exciting. I hope you guys feel a little bit more magical today, and we'll catch you next time.